Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Morgan, and here we do a little bit of all things creepy, but today specifically we are doing nothing but reading scary stories that you guys have sent in to me. So sit back, relax, but after this video, please send me your scary stories if you have one for me to read on the next one. But with all that being said, let's get into these stories. Usually I'm very skeptical because that's how our mom raised us, but I can't deny these things any longer. As children, we lived in a very small town, around 300 people. We had a nice house where my room was on the second floor and my two older sisters shared the attic. The ladder was in my room. At night I would wake up with blurry vision and see something on the ladder. It always stared at me and didn't move. My mom said it was probably my sister's, but it was too small and crouched and it was bald. I couldn't make out more details. Sometimes when I was alone or playing with my older sister Sammy, the house would go dead quiet. No animals outside, and we couldn't even hear the water boiler. It usually always made a loud noise. We would also have a very odd feeling like something was wrong. Sometimes it was the complete opposite. I was alone at home and heard loud noises like doors slamming, the stairs, someone laying in my sister's bed. It was old and very squeaky. And our motion sensors would go off even though no one could have walked by. After we moved out, things seemed to have stopped, but one day I was alone in my room and my sister was gone for 2 weeks and my mom left an hour ago for work. I had this gut feeling that someone was laying in my bed and I pretended to be asleep. The second I closed my eyes, my door slammed open. I was around 10 years old and I thought my mom came back because she forgot something, but that wouldn't make sense. I laid there for 10 minutes thinking the door was open because it slammed into my wall. When the odd feeling went away, I opened my eyes and that door was closed. There was a hole in my wall though. Sometimes a gut feeling told me to stay in my room, and I felt watched but safe in there. In the same home that I heard scratching on my doors and little noises. We moved a few times, nothing big happened except sometimes I heard someone calling me even though no one was home, and I always had a weird feeling. My family and I never really talked about it, but deep down I knew that everyone else knew. When I moved out, me and my sister moved to a rather big city. Things went downhill here. My doors would open and close, and it was freezing cold even in the summer. I always felt watched and had weird dreams about dead relatives or people I never knew telling me to get out and run. The dreams always felt real. I visited my sister and told her about these dreams after that, and it stopped. She told me she experienced a lot of weird things as well since we were little, but none since we last saw each other. I went home and everything stopped. A week later, she called me crying and begging me to come over. Her child had been playing on his own and let out a blood-curdling scream. He refused to go into his room for months and was too scared to say what happened. His room was ice cold, even though the rest of the house was pretty warm because she had a newborn and there was this dry air. He was dead silent, just very weird. I hung up crosses. We were religious as kids, and I couldn't think of anything else to calm down my sister. While I was down there, that door closed, and I felt the feeling of you are not welcome, and I swear I heard it, too. I left the room, and the thing stopped happening for her, but since then it's me again. I moved far away, but it didn't stop. It's voices, reflections, weird feelings, and shadows and bruises. This morning I was doing laundry, and there was this familiar voice saying, "Got you." The washing machine started to move and was really loud, even though it was turned off. My husband came down because I was screaming, and he didn't hear the machine. It stopped as soon as he yelled, "Are you okay? I'm coming." That was my final straw. I can't deny this anymore, and that's why I'm telling you about it, or anyone who can maybe help me or spread the word for me. I'm really scared. Okay, so let's talk about that. I always say if you want to leave a spirit in your space, that's totally fine, but once it starts scaring you and pushing limits and boundaries, that is when it's no longer welcome, so we gotta get rid of this. I am thinking this is going to have to be a full-on banishment, if not a cord cutting, because something has attached to you and it has been there for years and decades. So, I'm thinking try cleansing first on your house. I have videos on it. I can attach it in the description. If I remember, I will. Do a cleansing of your house. See if that helps. See if that works. If it doesn't, go into a banishment. And then do a cleansing right after. If that doesn't work, do all three again. Do a cord cutting and do them again. It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of energy, but it will work. Ignore it as best as you can, but I do recommend just starting with a cleansing, because if you don't have to do all of that stuff, and if you don't have to exert your energy to do all of that stuff, why would you? You know what I mean? And next story. I lived with my mom for the past 6 years, and they had a ghost that we called Fred. He never really bothered us. All he did was rattle dishes at night and move things when we weren't looking. I've recently found you on TikTok, and I've been watching your videos about what not to do with these things. While living with my mom, I would hear banging and talking and feel things touch me. I always had a feeling that I was being watched. A couple of times I would be home alone or with my sister, and I would hear my name being called, and I would answer, soon realizing my sister didn't even call my name. After the 6 years, I moved in with my dad and his ex-girlfriend. Their house was also haunted, but they had a demon. You'll find this layout a little helpful. You had the living room and then a hallway with a door on the left, and when you stepped in, you had the rest of the hallway on the right with a closet, bathroom, my room, and another closet, and my stepbrother's room at the end. Well, I was in my room, and I could hear the faucet in the bathroom turn on with no one being in there. We knew when people were around the house. The wall was thin. You could hear knocking and scratching and talking all the time, so it became normal. Everyone that lives in that house told me that the paranormal only got worse when I moved in because my room was at the top and that was the most haunted. One night something felt off about the whole house, but we went on about that day. And that night me and my brother came home and we were the only ones home. We both went to our rooms to do our own things. I was watching a scary movie when something bangs on my door. I was too scared to move, so I tried to record what was happening, but my phone died. My brother opened the door and then tried to open mine, but he couldn't. I saw where he barely got it cracked when it looked like a face 2 feet from his head, and the door slammed shut. When he finally got it open, my parents got home, and later that night at around 12, I went to my room and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't open again. My brother tried to help me, with both of us pushing to try and open it. My dad appeared at the end of the hallway asking what was wrong, and we told him. He walked down and tried. At first, it didn't work, and then he tried again and it opened. But him and his girlfriend got into a fight. Now we live on the road trucking, but I still have a sense that when I'm alone, I'm always going to be watched and that something is following me. Do you have any idea what to do? Oh, and this is in Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way. You need protections put on you, my love. You need protections put on you. Maybe your whole family, because that might be an attachment. And if protections don't work, if cleansings don't work, then it's kind of the same for the last story. We're going to have to start looking at banishments and cord cuttings, because something's attached. Alright, next story. This shadow figure still haunts my memory. I just want to know what it was and why this happened the way that it did. I was sleeping with my sister on the floor because neither of us knew how to sleep on a bed or on the couch. I woke up in the middle of the night, around the time that everyone is dead silent and the air itself is still. Nothing woke me up per se, no nightmare, no creepy sounds, not even a bad vibe. I just woke up and looked towards the master bedroom. There was a dark figure standing there. I'm not going to pretend it was a demon or that it had glowing red eyes with a huge brimmed hat. No, it was just a tall, dark figure. It was solid and transparent at the same time, though. I guess this is the time to mention that I'm scared of the dark. I always have been. I'm the kind of person that shits themselves when the lights are off. Well, I just barely started getting over that fear when all this happened. If it was any other time, I would have cried, but in that moment, everything was okay. I looked at the figure, and I knew the figure was looking at me. I couldn't see the thing's face, let alone any eyes, but I knew it was looking at me. I wasn't scared. I didn't feel any negative energy in the moment. It even just was. I don't know how long the staring contest was. It could have been 30 seconds or it could have been 20 minutes. After a while, I realized this thing wasn't going to hurt me, so I turned towards the couch and went back to sleep. The next morning, I sat and thought about what happened. Not gonna lie, I got scared. Really scared. Normal people didn't have experiences like this, and needless to say, I'm back to being scared of the dark. This happened in 2018. I'm scared of the dark too. That fear never went away from me. I don't like the dark. I don't do well in it. That sounds just like a shadow person. Most of them, I did say most, are completely benign and harmless, and it's fine. They just kind of watch. Some people call them watchers for that reason, because they're just kind of here. But, that doesn't sound harmful, but yeah, I don't blame you for being scared of the dark again. Alright, next story. About a year ago, I was at a friend's house for a sleepover. Me, my friend, his brother, and my little brother were playing hide and seek in the basement for a while until we got hungry. We were never this hungry before. It felt like our stomachs were wrung out and were drained of anything in them. So we snuck upstairs at around midnight to 1 in the morning, and we grabbed snacks from his pantry and drinks and all the good food we could find. When we turned around to go back downstairs to the basement, we kind of went through the kitchen. We had our backs to the kitchen while we were grabbing food, but we heard footsteps. We assumed they came from downstairs, where the siblings were. However, when we reached the stairs, we looked back just to make sure we cleaned up, and that's when we realized that there was a 7 to 8 foot tall skinny shadow figure watching. We ran downstairs and practically lifted off the ground. We were so fast. After that, we never really saw anything else paranormal in that house. That's similar to the last one, so same thing, a watcher, shadow person, usually benign. Let's hear one more story. I was binge watching your Appalachian horror videos and got to thinking about my own paranormal experiences. Number 1, the shadow person. I was probably 12 or 13 and was up very late because it was summer break, so it was probably around 3 in the morning. I was watching late night Disney Channel sitting on the bed, and my bedroom door was open and someone had left the hall light on. The doorway was directly to my left. I saw a flicker of movement out of my peripheral vision and glanced over. I saw an impossibly dark humanoid figure right under the light. He looked to be a tall man, around 6 to 7.5 feet tall. As soon as I noticed it, the thing did a sidestep movement, and it's like there was an invisible line. He simply stepped out of existence. I remember feeling distinctly calm and not really being afraid. Its energy seemed kind of like it made sense. Story number 2, the headless ghost. That sounds like the other two, doesn't it? My grandparents lived in a house with a section that is over 100 years old. Ever since I was a child, that front bedroom had an uneasy energy. I disliked that hallway immensely, and they never went over there either. The energy wasn't malicious, more deeply unsettling, and sadness accompanied by an overwhelming sense of loss. I ventured into there a couple of times before this, playing hide-and-seek with my brothers or out of simple curiosity. The room always was ice cold, even though in the southern summer my grandparents kept the house very warm. The most unsettling thing was once again this dark figure sitting on the bed. This one was different. It lacked a head entirely and had instead a bunch of slowly swirling, shadowy particles kind of circling where it should have been a head. I mentioned this to a family member some years ago, and they got a strange look in their eye and explained that my grandfather's father's dad ended his life with a on that bed. Now I always try and greet and wish it very well when I'm there, as he doesn't get visitors often. If not for these two experiences, I'm not sure I'd believe in the paranormal much at all, but I can't deny what I saw, even if I can't explain it. Well, anyways, that is all for these stories. Thank you guys so much for sending these in to me, and I will see you tomorrow.